Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? It's a Saturday matinee battle for the Utes as they welcome in Baylor to Rice-Eccles Stadium. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Penalties were not excessive, maybe one or two too many, but not anything excessive. Did turn the ball over a couple times, lost the turnover margin, which we rarely do. I was -1 in the turnover margin, but a lot of good stuff. We played very efficiently for the most part.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Happy Labor Day. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen, JJ and Alex, right here on the program here with you. Oh, my goodness. It's going to be full on this week, JJ. The NFL gets underway officially on Thursday. That means that our entire weekend is going to be, looks like I'm going to be busy watching some football.
Bummer.
What gets you the most excited? And I know I asked you about, like, if you could just watch one, college football or the NFL, you pick the NFL. But, like, honestly, the NFL getting fired up this year, that always brings kind of a Christmas Day situation for us where we go, oh, yeah, now we're back into it. But college football has so many more question marks, which is maybe why it's not as fun sometimes where you go. But for me, you go, yeah, hold on a minute, though. We thought we knew everything about these teams, or you try to guess in the offseason what it's going to be like. And even the bad teams may not be as bad as you think, and even some of the good teams you think are going to be good are not very good.
Yeah, but we wait all season long, and we're excited to watch these teams play, and then week one, Power 4 teams are playing FCS football teams. It's ridiculous. Like, what would be the comparison for the NFL? Like, the NFL taking the first week to play, I don't know, like, what is the new league that they started? The
UFL.
The UFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if they just played UFL teams week one? Like, would you be psyched up for that?
No, I get it.
So what are we doing here?
I had the same conversation. I'm on board with.
I get the
eliminating
stuff, but you had all camp to get tuned up. I want to see some really good matchups week one, like LSU USC. Who was not entertained last night? That was great.
Who was it? Jay Catch and I were talking about this on the BYU pre and post game. I don't remember which one, but it was. I always make my point about how the FCS games. I don't get them. I don't really understand why it's become a part of the game where you play somebody in a division below you to get ready for the season, or sometimes in the middle of the season, right?
Well, you do it to chalk up an easy W with no pressure, and the other team has to do it to keep their programs running so they can get a check.
Right. You can keep those programs afloat. The larger conferences of football need to help when it comes to that, right? The FBS.
That's their way of helping.
I know. I'm just saying that they can carve out some money for those programs, keep them going, all right? Without having to play them. Now, Jay Catch brought something up, and he goes, now there's been a conversation about maybe playing some of those games in the spring. Like, that's your spring game against an FCS team. Think about how much more excited look, if you're going to play a team, that's when I want you to play it, because if there was a real game or a real, off-season, preseason game, a spring game that you could sell tickets for, if SUU came up to BYU in the spring, it didn't count against your record, didn't count for anything except for maybe you do pay that team for coming up. I know there would be injury concerns, but at the same time, we'd have a spring football game against, big teams against FCS teams. That's when I would allow it. That doesn't get your blood going?
I don't, there's no reason for it. Why?
Think about that's how you get your team, that's how you finish off your spring. Not this not the inter-squad blue versus white. Go, invite your fans to come see them. Get 25,000 fans in there. Get your biggest boosters in there. Come on.
That's fine. Do that. But I just stop playing week one games like this. It's just not. And we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. We watched every second of them. But I don't know what I learned about BYU and Utah State this week. I'm very concerned about Utah State.
They definitively started the season this year, JJ. Their season officially started.
Okay, but what was gained from that? I guess the team, they can answer that. But
no,
I'm talking from a fan point of view, from a spectator point of view, from somebody who wants to be entertained by watching college football. And this is why college football has become big business, is because we all enjoy the entertainment aspect of it, and we're tuning in. You're not delivering with these FCS games, because it's just, what are we doing here? Like, why would you want to watch Ole Miss beat Furman 76-0?
Hey, there you go.
What is gained from that? And then you have Jackson Dart, those numbers are great. I mean, he's really good. But then you're questioning whether it really matters, and that's not fair to him.
Right.
He went out there and did his job. So it's just, I'm fine with these teams playing group of 5 teams. I'm fine with Utah playing Utah State. That's not what I'm talking about here. It's the FC. The gap has grown so big. 10, 15, 20 years ago, wasn't that big of a deal. And you saw more FCS upsets. Remember, App State over Michigan. App State was a high-end FCS team. Michigan wasn't as great as they were. You saw upsets. You're not seeing those upsets very much anymore. Did we have one FCS over Power 4 upset this week? Was there one? I'm hearing crickets.
Yeah, we usually get one, don't we?
Right. Because the gap is bigger than it's ever been before. So they need to stop scheduling these games.
Okay.
Go get a group of 5 game. Utah, play Fresno State week 1. Don't play Southern Utah.
Play a team from your conference and call it a non-conference game. Hey, that's what the Utes are doing this week. Let's kick off our program. Everything, of course, on this show brought to you by the folks at G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. You can find them at Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, all in the refrigerated section. Let's kick off the hour as we always do with the cut. We'll jump in right here with some of the cuts from the latest from Kyle Whittingham's press conference today. Let's jump in right here.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right. This portion of the show brought to you by an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's the Doug Smith dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Great service starts with know-how, and nobody knows like Doug Smith. All right. Things that we took away from this one, you can go to KSLSports.com right now and read Steve Bartle's write-up about this Kyle Whittingham press conference. Well, let's take a listen to some of the couple bites from here. We'll bring you these every week. Here's what he said about the running back situation. I think that was the part where everybody looked and went, so who's the guy? I don't know if you necessarily got the answer. You certainly had a lot of guys taking snaps. You had Dijon Stanley's awesome 3 catches for 150, not a bad average, 50 yards per, a couple touchdowns. Here's what Kyle Whittingham said about the running back room.
I thought we played a fairly clean game. There's some things that we can do better, as there is every single week. Thought we ran the ball just okay. We had 185 yards rushing, but we like to get that 5 yards a carry statistic, and we were just shy of that.
Boy, it must be nice, right?
Greedy. I know a lot of teams in the country would be overjoyed with 4.7 yards per carry and 185 yards in a touchdown.
Okay.
But they have a high standard at Utah.
They do. And look, it's SUU. You should be having one of your bigger games against SUU. And they did. Here's what he said about Dijon Stanley, by the way. This is a guy who I think broke out onto the scene. I don't think any of us saw him having 150 yards receiving this weekend, but in that first game on Thursday. But here's what he said about Dijon Stanley and how well he's playing.
Well, he sure was productive Thursday night and was a big play guy for us. I don't think he's quite yet ready for every down type of a back, but he certainly will have an expanded package as the season goes on if he continues to have the impact that he did. Did everything really well in the game Thursday night, nearly 200 yards of offense, receiving and rushing, and so he's a weapon for us. At least he was in that first game, and if we can create some more big chunk yardage plays with him in the future, that's that could be a niche that he could fill for us this year.
That's an interesting. He's an interesting study, because we kind of had him as being the. Think about it. We had Mekhi Bernard, Jalen Glover, Mike Mitchell, and then Dijon Stanley's name came up fourth, and he was the guy who was the most productive the other night. And it was through the air.
He was also their leading rusher.
How many yards did he have?
He had more rushing yards than anyone on the team by 1 over Mekhi Bernard. So He had 6 carries, 34 yards. It's just 5.7 yards per carry. Had a 14-yard run, and then obviously led the team in receiving. It was a weird game, and this is again. We opened the segment talking about the FCS thing. They just didn't have a lot of possessions and plays in their possessions. There wasn't a lot of touches. Cam Rising threw 15 passes in the game, right? I mean, in 5 touchdowns. So 1 out of every 3 throws that Cameron Rising had was a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Right.
Good numbers.
You just because they had the big scores and big gains. Just guys didn't get a lot of touches, although they did run the ball 39 times, but it was spread out among a lot of guys. Isaac Wilson, by the way, 5 carries, which was just 1 short of the team lead. Right?
Yeah,
you see what I was saying?
Yeah.
So my point is it's really hard to evaluate this offense and individual players within the offense because you're really excited about what Dijon Stanley did, but this is not a normal game.
Yeah.
You're going to get to see that against Baylor this week because this is a normal game. This is a Power 4 opponent, not a conference game, but it is a conference team that you're going to be facing. It's a great test for Utah this weekend to see where they're at. And so I don't think Dijon Stanley is going to be able to do what he did against Baylor that he did at Southern Utah, but I could be wrong. But I think you're going to see guys that didn't get a lot of touches in the Southern Utah game suddenly get a lot. Like Mekhi Bernard's going to have a lot more workload than 5 carries against Baylor. Right?
Yeah.
Mike Mitchell's going to have more than 6 carries against Baylor. And Cam Rising's going to throw twice as many passes against Baylor as he did against Southern Utah.
Right.
Which will help us evaluate him more.
Probably won't have 5 touchdowns in the first half either. But, again, this is what happens in your first game of the year against an FCS team that's
It's tough to evaluate.
Yes.
It's really hard to evaluate.
Here's what Kyle Whittingham said about Keenan Johnson, and of course that was a tough one. But this is how the defensive back room is going to figure it out with Keenan being out for the rest of the season.
Smith Snowden played exceptionally well at the nickel spot on the inside. He is very capable of playing on the outside as well, so you might see that happen. Scooby Davis came in and gave us some good reps. We get Cam. Cam's back this week at corner. That'll give us another guy that had a very good spring and was showing promise. And so it's right now we don't have the exact answer and configuration, but we'll take a look at the configurations in practice and determine in the next day or two what the best one's going to be.
Good news is you lose a guy for the rest of the season, but you have tremendous depth. This is why
Scooby Davis came in and got a pick.
Right. This is why having the personnel that Utah does and being able to put that on the field every week and having guys who are ready to play. Like, honestly, the 2 and 3 deep for the Utes could play anywhere in this conference at defensive back. Is that insane to say it like that?
No.
But I think that's why they are a Power 5 team that was already ready to come in there and this season in the Big 12 and be a favorite because they have the depth that you need to be able to survive in a big conference like this, and they're better than everybody else on defense.
It is a tough blow. Kenan Johnson was going to hold down that other corner spot opposite of Zamiah Vaughn, and you need somebody to balance that out because Zamiah's got it locked on the other side. You need somebody that on the opposite side that's going to be able to do the same, and Kenan was going to be that guy. Now it's time for somebody to step up, but you still believe in their secondary. I don't even know if they'll get tested this weekend. Baylor's not a team that's going to light the scoreboard up with passing. That's not how they're going to play on Saturday. It'll probably be a minute before we see a team that really challenges that secondary.
Right.
But they'll figure it out. Next man up mentality. Utah's used to this. They've had a lot of guys go through this, and they'll figure it out.
Here's what he had to say about the tight ends, and obviously the tight ends and wide receivers got a lot of work this last weekend. But again, speaking of positions that are very, very deep, and everybody's waiting to see if Dorian Singer, like everyone was waiting for 150 yards out of Dorian Singer last week, but the opportunity presented itself with the mismatches that they had for Dijon Stanley to catch those balls that he did. Here's what he said about the tight ends and wide receivers.
Some weeks the tight ends will be more involved and more the core of the plan. And some weeks it's wide receivers. I think it's matchups, the type of defense that we're facing, their personnel. Are they playing nickel? Are they playing 43? So all that stuff goes into play. But one thing that's a big positive is we have the luxury of being able to attack different ways and have a lot of weapons for Cam and Coach Ludwig to utilize.
Okay. You don't love to hear that if you're if you're the wide receivers. You go, yeah, some weeks we're going to give the wide receivers a shot. Other weeks it's going to be all tight ends all day.
14 personnel, which they ran.
They ran a bunch, by the way.
And successfully.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm one of those guys that loves the. I love the idea of the tight ends getting all the work, but I do want to see that Dorian Singer breakout.
Yeah.
You think Dorian Singer doesn't see what Tech McMillan is doing at the school that he was at a couple of years ago, and goes, "Hey man, 300 yards in one game, I could do that too. I just had to have somebody throwing me the ball that many times."
He only played half the game.
Yeah, it's fine.
And you're going to see a Baylor. He's going to play a much bigger role against Baylor. And Brant Keithy was awesome. 4 catches, 69 yards, 3 touchdowns, just like usual.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Back to work for Brant Keithy. And a lot of these guys were limited in their targets and catches because they just weren't out there long enough. And the possessions were short. Cam only threw 15 balls. There was only 10 caught. So there's not a lot there for these guys to get. And then the second half, you had guys like Caleb Lohner and Luca Caldarella and Tyshawn Lyons get catches.
Mm-hmm.
Dadrian Zipperer, who looked pretty good too.
Yep.
In that second unit. But it was about developing your depth here. And now you know a guy like Dadrian Zipperer can come in and make some plays. Caleb Lohner can certainly get it done at the tight end position if they need to call on him. We didn't even see some guys that I think are going to figure into their game plan offensively moving forward. We just didn't get to see them make any plays because they just wasn't enough time and there wasn't enough reps because they scored so quickly.
All right, let's.
Saturday will be fascinating.
It will be interesting. I'm all for it. I'm all for seeing what this thing is going to bring. When Baylor comes to town, you could see, like, Dave Aranda is playing with his hair on. Well, he doesn't have any, but he's playing with his hair on fire. I can say that I'm a fellow bald person. Okay. We don't say things like, we don't use terms like
so
playing with
you
their
have a
hair
bald
on fire.
pass? You can make fun of bald people? Okay.
Look, and there's certain things you don't say because saying playing with your hair on fire it's downright sacrilegious for us people who are hair envious.
The thought of just letting your hair burn. It's like the rich person throwing money on the fire.
He did what to his hair?
Like, could you give me some of that?
Yeah. So Dave Aranda has got something to prove, which is
keep his job.
The keeping his job hard. I got something to prove. What's that, honey? That's what he says to his wife. I got something to prove. What is that? That I can stay employed this year? Good start. Again, against an FCS opponent this last week, but there you go. All right. We'll take the break. We've got more to go. When we return, oh my goodness. Did we use all the sound, by the way? The Kyle Whittingham sound that we Okay. I'm just making sure. I didn't want to leave anything on the table here. We do have a ton. Yeah, I was just saying I didn't want to have Jeremy cut it up and then have me
Alex never allows there to be leftovers.
No, look. Again.
That fat joke?
Is that a fat
Hey,
joke?
I'm
Jeremiah?
on Salt Lake City Fat Loss too. I get a fat pass. We can make these jokes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not exactly petite either.
Hey, does Lagoon sell the Fat Pass this year? Come on down. Here's the ride you can ride. Our insurance adjusters allow you to ride that ride only. Look, I've been a guy who's barely fit into some roller coasters before. Oh my goodness, what are we doing with our lives, Jeremiah?
Yeah, we got problems.
We're dropping weight. That's what we're doing.
We are.
Okay. Things are going well. Let me see here. I'm trying to think about, because the next couple of weeks, so Utah's got Baylor this weekend at home, and then they go up to Maverick Stadium in Logan. That I think that, frankly, you're going to still see this Utah State team trying to get their feet under them. I know that's not – what was that face? What was that face?
I'm worried about Utah State.
Me too. Worried about Nate Dreiling. I know that I know Jeremy's going to roll this out at some point this week because I did say months ago that I thought Utah State. Now, a lot has changed, okay, since that fateful day that I said that I thought Utah State was going to go in and upset USC this year down at the Coliseum. It's probably not a good year to make that prediction.
Is that
right?
who's their defensive coordinator now?
Oh, yeah.
It's not Alex Grinch.
It's not Alex Grinch.
Then Utah State has no chance.
They played their freaking butts off against LSU, man.
Yeah, they
hey,
look good.
You know what? Maybe there'll be a little bit of a Vegas hangover for USC.
Hope so.
I mean, at the very least, you can say that Lincoln Riley kind of gets his guys. I mean, inconsistency's been his deal. So maybe that'll be the case.
Well, you know what? Trap game?
Yeah, I don't know. Miller Moss is looking to.
Do you know who they play the next week?
Who do they play the game after?
At the Big House against
Okay.
Michigan. Well,
I don't
they
know
have a bye.
I don't know who's better.
They have a bye.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a trap game then.
Probably not.
Utah State might be as good as Michigan, though, this year. The way that who did Michigan play? They played Fresno State, right?
Yeah, struggled to score. Blew them out at the end, but it was
What
probably
was
a
the
nervous
final?
Saturday for Michigan
I saw
fans.
it was like 16-13 when I saw it.
Yeah, they ended up pulling away. But it was
Fine.
tight for
All
a
right.
long time, probably longer than Michigan fans were comfortable with.
Yeah, Sharon Moore might have some extra work to do before he gets that full contract.
Yeah, I've got it right here. It was 13-3 after 3 quarters.
Yeah, not good.
And then didn't Fresno State score? Cut
Yeah,
to
it was. It got a little
13-10?
bit. It got a little bit dicey for him.
Yeah,
Got a
it
little bit
was.
dicey
It
for
was. Sorry, it was 16-10.
That was
And
when
then
I saw
Michigan finished it off with a couple late touchdowns.
That's when
but
I saw it.
It was
16-10
16-10 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
In the
All
Big
right.
House.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more around the corner. We've got a couple things to jump in there and throw your way. How much should we learn about this Big 12 team? We'll bring it up. We'll talk a little bit about. I mean, look, Mitch Harper and I chopped it up on our Big 12 show yesterday, so I've got a lot of thoughts on where these teams are at right now. So stay right here with us. We've got tons around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Aggies hit the road to Southern California for a battle against USC. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All righty, buddy. Happy Labor Day. Labor Day. Everybody.
You got love for Labor Day?
I do. It's a good tune. What year is this?
Oh, man, like 1990.
97?
Nate Dogg.
96? Gotta love some Nate Dogg, dude. All right. What's the origin of Labor Day? Is it a union thing? Is that what this is?
Yes, exactly.
My dad straight up did not care if it was Labor Day. That actually meant we were doing more work.
Because you were home from school to be able to do the work.
I know. It was actually, Labor Day was a rough day at my house. So we had a pool growing up when we were in Texas. And so the way that they do it, my dad's
You got a
like,
pool. Wow.
well, that was the thing
Good
is
for
like,
you
you'd be
guys.
like, hey, we got a pool. This is awesome. Dad's like,
Your dad make a lot of money?
everybody in Texas has a pool, man. I'm telling you.
It's like toilets?
We were
They
scrubbing.
do. I didn't. So
Oh, gosh. Okay. So we were scrubbing the algae off of the tiles.
Right.
That was our deal. That was our
That's
thing.
hard work.
You're going, well, because you're like, and your dad, and my dad's whole thing was, you can do it while you're in the pool. I was like, yeah, you can get in the pool. Here's this toothbrush. And you go around, and we did. We had
Wow.
to freaking scrub between the grout on the tile work around the pool, man.
I mowed the lawn today, and then I came to work.
Again,
Like,
Labor Day.
It's truly a Labor Day
I know.
for me.
It is.
I think it's the opposite of the purpose of Labor Day, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm laboring on Labor Day. I am an idiot.
I definitely was. It was a house cleaning situation for us for sure. So there you go. Federal holiday celebrated on the first Monday of September to honor and recognize the American labor movement and the contribution of laborers to the development and achievement of the United States. There you go.
It's just one big last weekend before.
Oh, yeah.
It's like your so long to summer weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yet here we are.
Here we are talking about sports on a Monday. Glad to have you with us.
And we're doing it for you, and we love you.
Oh,
Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. This portion of the show brought to you by, hey, guess what? Every Sunday, 10 to noon, brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. It's our First and 12 program. hosted by myself and Mitch Harper, our BYU insider for KSLSports.com. We are every Sunday chopping up a ton of Big 12 talk. Get the freshest fruits and vegetables from the local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's, happy shopping. 11 games in the Big 12 this week were against FCS teams.
Jeez.
You know what? And guess what?
16 teams, 11 of them played FCS opponents.
Hey, got to tune up somehow.
And all that, we made fun of the SEC for their Week 11 FCS week.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know. I mean, we looked at the schedule too, and I feel like that the SEC, because a lot of them played FCS teams. Furman is usually middle of the year. They don't play two FCS teams.
They changed that. They no longer do that.
Right, they're not doing
the November. They're not doing FCS week in November.
Good. They'd be like everybody else and play the FCS team when they're supposed to.
They're doing it in September.
In week 1, all right? And week 0.
Or technically August.
So 11 games against FCS teams. I'm happy to report they're 11-0 against those FCS teams, the Big 12. There was an overtime win by Texas Tech over Abilene Christian. West Virginia and Houston were your only 2 losses in the conference this week, and they were against big boy teams, I guess.
UNLV, that juggernaut? I mean, of course Houston got waxed by UNLV because the Rebels are just...
This is why Brett Yormark is
true blue blood in the desert.
Brett Yormark's going to extend an invitation to UNLV. We're going to bring Vegas in to the Big 12.
Well, when they hire Garcesian, of course they're going to do that.
So West Virginia gets blown out by Penn State, and UNLV beat Houston. Those are your 2 losses. But UNLV was also an 8-point favorite in that game going to Houston, so it wasn't a shock that they were going to beat Houston. Houston's not going to be good this year. Houston is decidedly the worst team in the conference right now.
That's clear. We learned that in week 1.
Yes.
Take that to the bank. Houston sucks.
Is Colorado going to surprise people or fall off again this year?
You believe that?
No, I do not.
Hold on. Oh, no. Do you believe?
No.
They were 5 yards away from losing.
Against a team that a lot of people thought that they were going to lose to.
What does that tell you? Like a lot of people thought Colorado was going to lose to North Dakota State.
Not a lot of respect.
By the way, North Dakota State, FCS juggernaut, great program. They've beat some of the big boys before.
However,
but it's an FCS versus a Power 4 team, and a lot of people are hyping up Colorado as if they are a top 25 team, and they are not.
Okay.
And that proved itself once again in week 1, and Nebraska, prediction time, is going to work them.
Is there a team on the schedule now that you saw after just one game that you thought, oh, you know what? I underestimated this team or I overestimated this team? I think West Virginia losing to Penn State is not that big of a deal because you're supposed to lose to the number 8 team in the country. They were playing them at home, but, I don't know what you expect out of Neil Brown. He was supposed to be the worst team in the conference last year. They won 9 games, but they didn't play Penn State.
Right.
And so for me, I'm just like, on them. Texas Tech definitely underperformed. Arizona is really good, but their defense struggled. You get exactly what you thought you were going to get out of Utah. Did BYU overperform, or just did they go status quo against an FCS team like Southern Illinois?
BYU did what they're supposed to do against an FCS opponent that they didn't do last year against a team transitioning from FCS to FBS in Sam Houston last year. So I wouldn't say over or underperformed. I think BYU did exactly what you think they should do.
So do you think that because I think we moved him up in our power rankings this week, do you think that's too aggressive week 1 to give him a bump? I think they went from like 13th.
Drop.
I think they went from like 13th to 10th in our power polls that we did.
Colorado should drop.
Yeah.
Texas Tech should drop. Maybe you consider Arizona State moving up. Iowa State should not have struggled with North Dakota. 21-3 at home.
Yeah.
It was 14-3 at halftime.
Yeah.
I want to see more. That Iowa State team's better than that. I wanted to see more from Iowa State. And I keep going through here some other teams in that middle range in the conference. TCU, no. You got really lucky there. They were losing that game at Stanford. Stanford was picked to finish 17th in a 17-team ACC this year. So, no, move TCU down.
Okay. Yeah,
Give
no, I think we did.
BYU a bump.
I think we put no. Actually,
Give
you know
Baylor
what?
a bump. Baylor was a solid 45-3 win against an FCS, right?
Let me give you our power poll we did for.
Give me your power poll. I'll tell you
I'm
what
going to give you the power poll that Mitch and I did for our Big 12 for First and 12 yesterday, and part of it is because I think let me look here because I don't know. I've got to pull it up because I had it up yesterday and then obviously going through and trying to figure out. Okay, First and 12. Here's our power poll for Week 1. All right, Utah, Kansas State. I think that he and I had an argument about Oklahoma State and Kansas, but Kansas played a Lindenwood team that is really, really bad and less recognizable than even a South Dakota State. Oklahoma
That's
put 44
FCS
up on
powerhouse.
them. Yes. And I'm going to say this too. Alan Bowman outperformed what I thought he was going to do to start things off here.
I'd put Oklahoma State ahead of Kansas Week 1.
So I did Utah,
Agreed.
so Mitch and I came up with Utah number 1, Kansas State number 2. You good with those?
Yes.
Still there. We put Oklahoma State above Kansas just because of the opponent. Arizona stays at 5.
Yeah.
Now this one was 1. We moved up UCF to number 6. And it wasn't because you were like, oh, a 57-3 win. That's crazy. But their running backs, I think, combined for RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
What did they end up?
KJ Jefferson didn't play
Now,
that
that's the thing is KJ Jefferson did not play well, but these guys are going to be.
still rolled.
They still rolled, and I think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
I think they are going to be. You should be nervous, BYU fans and Utah fans. So
I'd move them ahead of Iowa State.
We did put them ahead of Iowa State. So
Good
Iowa
call.
State is 7. TCU is 8. And I think that we kept them there because they did play. I know they were picked 17th, but they did go on the road to an FBS opponent. I think Troy Taylor's team is a little bit better than we might give him credit for than being 17th in the ACC. But again, they won that game. Fine.
I want to drop them, but I can't because there's nobody else that deserves
That's exactly
to go up higher.
right. That's exactly right. So BYU, we actually put at 9.
I have no problem with
Is that too aggressive?
No.
Go single digits
Because
already?
West Virginia lost. Texas Tech should have.
Okay.
I mean, overtime against an FCS? Get out of here,
How about
Texas
this?
Tech.
How about this? We actually moved Arizona State ahead of Colorado. So Arizona State's 10.
I have no problem with that. Arizona State looked good.
48-7.
Wyoming sucks, but Arizona State blew the doors off of them.
I'm happy for Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah.
So Arizona State, of all the teams in the Big 12, outperformed, I think, even what people thought they were going to be able to do. Arizona State 10, Colorado 11. We put Texas Tech below Colorado because of that bad
Agreed.
performance against
I'd put Baylor
Abilene
up.
Christian. West Virginia I still put ahead of Baylor just because of the quality of the opponent that they played.
That's fair.
And then Baylor is at 14. Cincinnati and Houston are decidedly 15 and 16 in the conference.
Yeah, Cincinnati struggled against Towson.
Is it Towson? Is it Towson?
You can probably get away with calling it whatever you want in this
I
market
know.
because
No
no
one
one's
would
going to know or care.
That's
It's
exactly
in
right.
Maryland, by the way.
All right, so I'm glad listen, because we went through that, and it was a very, 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 very late night for Mitch and I. And so when we put the poll together, I didn't know if I was going to come out on this thing on today and look at it and go, "Well, that was a dumb move." But BYU 9, that's going up 4 spots or 5 spots.
I'm okay with that right now.
That's yeah. And again, every week it changes because you could have. This is what I love about the power poll is. Last year it was like Baylor would go up 2 spots and then they'd go back down to 16. By the end, I don't know if Houston is going to be able to be. I think Houston might stay at that number 16 spot for quite some time this season.
No doubt. Tell me who you had in front of BYU 1 spot and behind them.
TCU. TCU's 1 ahead. Again, they played a more legitimate opponent.
I don't know if I can say today I feel comfortable BYU beats TCU, so I'm okay
That's
with
what I'm
that
saying.
spot.
And Josh Hoover still
I'm not
threw
convinced
for,
yet because of what we saw last year.
Yeah.
I need to see more from BYU.
Josh Hoover threw for 353.
No problem
And
with
2
that.
touchdowns, no picks.
Who's right behind BYU?
Arizona State.
Yeah,
at
no.
10.
BYU's better than Arizona State, so I'm fine with that spot.
Okay. And you're okay with Colorado being 11?
I think BYU beats every team you had below them.
All right. Even Colorado, even though they're not playing them this year.
BYU beat Colorado.
They're not playing them this year, so we can.
The only one we'd be worried about is Baylor. I'm not so sure about that one. I think that's a tough matchup for BYU. But
Baylor
we'll see.
could put themselves. They could be very well be somewhere in that 7-8 spot
For
by
sure.
the end of the year.
For sure.
If
You know
if
they
they're
have
a little
talent.
bit better. Yeah. All right, we'll take the break. We'll come back. Let's let's have ourselves some fun on the way back here. We'll have some hot pig farmer talk on a Monday on the Labor Day.
Prince of Pigs is back on his crown.
Let's go. We got lots going on. Bryson Barnes figured it out this weekend. We wondered how quickly he would come in this season, and it only took a couple of quarters before he was in and getting the win for Utah State Aggies. We'll come back. We got more to go around the corner. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Cougars hit the road for a huge matchup against SMU. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
When I saw the nickel take the dig across the middle, I knew there was going to be nobody there. But EA Sports needs to bump my speed rating on NCAA, that's for sure.
Do you know what your speed rating is on there?
Not high enough.
I imagine, I pictured Bryson Barnes. That's a pretty. I like the confidence, I guess. He's
never lacked for confidence.
No,
you're from Milford, and you go walk on at Utah because you think you're a big-time college quarterback.
He has
moxie.
Right, and you got the scholarship. You earned the scholarship after a while. Ends up going up to Utah State. Bryson Barnes, that's a guy who, by the way, he'd be phenomenal doing some as a color analyst, right, on the radio.
I think he could if he wants to.
He would have.
I'm never going to tell Bryson Barnes he can't. Ever. Do you not respect the hell out of that guy?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was pretty fun to watch it. We were wondering because how many times did on and off the air Scotty G tell us he's having a hell of a camp, and then he'd look at you and be like, he's playing really well, and it was like wink, almost like, hey, Spencer Petras, I know he was the named starter. And it was known for a long time, but it was also a little bit of a poorly kept secret that Bryson Barnes was maybe better. Now, Spencer Petras goes out, gets the was it a sprained ankle?
Yeah, threw a couple picks. Kind of a rough start for him, and then he gets hurt.
Bryson Barnes comes in, scores 3 touchdowns, 2 of them through the air, 1 on the ground, that 60-yarder. Nice. 68-yard touchdown run. That's a guy who is very capable of that. And Petras ends up with a boot on his leg. I don't know what that's going to look like. But in the end, though, the Utah State Aggies might have – do you remember what happened to Keaton Slovis last year? It was like, oh, yeah, he's a little bit nicked up. Perfect excuse also to be like, let's get Jake Retzlaff in here. And when Jake Retzlaff played in a couple games, it was still like, nah, we're keeping him in there. Even with Keaton Slovis maybe being healthy – it was still not the guy.
BYU had turned the page.
Does Bryson Barnes lose his starting job the rest of the way, do you think? Do you think that he's done enough? Do you think that this was the thing that coaches go, all right, carry us through, see what you can do for us? The tough thing is you're going to play USC and Utah the next 2 weeks.
It's not like you're going to get. That's the hard part.
It's not that you're going to get. It's not that you're going out there and you're going to blow up, Wyoming, who's down obviously this year right off the bat. You're playing your 2 hardest games over the next 2 weeks. One down at the Coliseum, and the other you're hosting a Utah team that that line probably isn't going to get.
Will probably end up in the playoff.
Yes,
and you're playing 2 potential playoff teams the next 2 weeks.
That's going to be a 3-score line at home. That you're going to be dogs
for sure.
At home. So,
but Bryson Barnes is the perfect underdog.
Right, and if
he was an underdog at the Coliseum last year.
And if there's somebody who understands that offense and what Utah can do, it's that guy.
You don't think Bryson Barnes isn't going to be comfortable at the Coliseum next week? It's his greatest moment. It's his greatest win.
He's like, you think so?
It's his Picasso.
Yeah, it's him going. It's him going in there going. He's going to walk into the Coliseum and go.
It's his opus.
I've
he beat Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, did I tell you
He
I
led
won
a
here?
game-winning drive against USC.
Did I tell you guys I won this game last year? Here in the same very in this
He's
very
not
same
going to be
building?
intimidated. He's got nothing to lose.
The coaches are like, "Can you actually come in on the defensive meetings and help us understand a little bit of what the next 2 weeks he's basically going to play defensive coordinator also in the room against Utah and against USC. That USC team looked good, and I don't like admitting that ever, but they looked really good yesterday. They were the more physical team out of that LSU.
I was wrong about
LSU
Miller
game.
Moss. That dude's legit.
Boy, you know what?
That was some big boy quarterback.
How about
in that
him
second
after the
half.
game, like not really even focusing on celebrating with his teammates? He's more interested in going around the stadium, doing the L down to the LSU fans and waving. It was the absolutely insulting wave goodbye to the fan
Oh,
base
yeah.
that was obviously in your ear on the sideline.
Oh yeah,
When you do it's the open and shut
that
hand.
LSU bunch is something. They were something at the women's NCAA tournament 2 years ago, and I went there to cover the Utes in the Sweet 16.
You know what I love?
Those LSU people. That's a brash group.
Those LSU people. My favorite was looking up in the crowd at that game too. They were doing this. They were panning shots. I think a lot of people do this when they go to Vegas anyway. But a lot of LSU fans in the building with sunglasses on.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You're like, I don't want my mom to see me on TV like this. Take your pick. You go down to Vegas, it smells like weed 100% of the time. Or everyone's wasted 100% of the time. You think LSU fans weren't?
Is that the new Vegas advertising
Oh my gosh.
campaign? Vegas smells like weed.
They do have some new campaign. I can't remember what it was. It was like whatever you. Oh yeah, it was like whatever debauchery you're into, do it 100%. I can't remember what their new motto is, but it's basically like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's something dumb. But anyway, all right, we'll take a break. Bryson Barnes, he's going to be. I bet you're going to see a couple weeks of him starting at quarterback. We'll see what Spencer Petras' ankle presents, but I don't know. Maybe. Even if it's even partway questionable, if you're Utah State, this is a perfect excuse anyway because you probably wanted him to go in and be the guy against USC anyway. So there you go. Did you find the new Vegas motto?
I just coined it. It's done.
It smells like weed.
I want royalties.
There you go. All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back. When we do, getting into this third hour here, let's have a little overreaction to college football week 1. Not just a Big 12 reaction, but we'll do the full thing here. We'll get into the biggest and smallest storylines across the entire country. So stay right here with us. 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.